Alright, so this is just the way the people news. Alright. This video is without prejudice and or without recourse. Okay? I'm not an attorney, so anything I say or do is just my opinion. It is not legal advice. Because why? I'm not an attorney, y'all. Because I don't look just straightforward. I always look around me and try to put puzzles together. Okay? Not just by me, because I'm near death anyway, but for the protection of my family to learn, if they choose to do so. Okay? So, therefore, never look straight forward. Always look around you. Okay? This right here is Ralph Cave, where the storm clouds gather. Okay? And he's got some words of wisdom, but you got to have an open mind. If a mind is closed, then you're not going to learn. You're just going to be like a cop, and you're going to be an order follower. Because they have to hire people with low IQs, y'all, so they can keep these order followers. Time and time and time, we've seen videos. Well, the judge ordered. The judge ordered. Because they can't think. They have to stay in that straight line. They cannot look around them. That's one. Alright? And dare I say it, the attorneys are bound, chained to the bar union. Alright. That's said. Let's learn something.
It's been a little while. Excited to let you guys know about the class on warrants. Dare to discover the truth and live free or die trying. It seems like it would be, it sounds a little ruthless, I'll be real honest with you. But we have to understand why the Founding Fathers did what they did as far as being rebellion. Or rebellious. And when we look at it, we have to truly comprehend and understand what drove these men, who for all intents and purposes were pretty well off, okay? They risked their life, their liberty, their freedom, their families. They pledged their sacred honor, and what was it all for? And that's what this class is really geared for. It's a little deceiving because it's titled Warrants, Dare to Discover the Truth and Live Free or Die Trying. But the reality of the situation is, not only is it about warrants, but we're going to cover the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, how to enforce it. All right, we've had a tremendous bout of good luck and good fortune as of recently. And it can only be attributed to the fact that through my personal trials, tribulations, errors, mistakes along the way, along this beautiful journey called life granted to myself by the Heavenly Father, through those trials and tribulations, I have come to acquire certain knowledge that you just can't read in a book. I've been told many times in my life, Derek, if you go against the grain, you're going to have a hard life. Your entire life is going to be difficult. Well, I welcome that challenge. And I think it's time in American history for more people to welcome that challenge. And I understand the hesitation in standing up for what's right, what's just, and what's fair. It comes with a lot of responsibility, accountability, and liability. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that is freedom, okay? And so the class on warrants, as we get into it, we're going to go into positive law, non-positive law, what Congress has the right to govern, okay? We're going to talk about the judiciary. There have been some things in the recent past here with governors being indicted, congressmen being indicted, attorney generals being indicted. We have a phenomenal amount of CEOs, CFOs, and bankers stepping down from their position. I'm not going to attribute any one of those things to the prior administration, but I find it very odd and very interesting that a turn of events seems to be concurring at an accelerated rate at this point. Does anybody else find it extremely odd that the alleged president of the United States currently can't put two words together to form a sentence? Okay. I just watched a couple of his videos not too long ago, and I'm like, there's no way the greatest nation in the world is being led by a bumbling fucking idiot. All right. I'm just being real about that. Many of the American people are very brilliant, articulate, intelligent, and know deep down inside something isn't right. And I'd like to share that with you with my point of views from my trials and tribulations through fire, water, and ice, wind and water, the whole 9 yards, okay? We have discovered some things in law that absolutely work. And it brings us back to the common law. A lot of people say, well, Derek, what do you feel about state nationals and doing all this paperwork and all that? That's all fine and dandy. But I talked to a lot of people throughout the years who file paperwork but never really comprehend what it's about. And thus, when they're questioned or interrogated about the documents that they have on public record or before the court, they freeze because they're led to believe that their paperwork says it all. They don't have to express it orally. I'll remind you, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was good, and it was of God. And that being said, it tells us right in the first instance that the law is spoken, okay? So it's not just about what's on your paperwork. It's about what you can express orally. The next thing you have to be cognizant of is a contract can be created in a multitude of ways. It can be done orally, it can be expressed through physical actions, or it can be done and completed in a written form. All right. When we start to look at the evolution of the corporation, Title 28, 3002-15A, which is by federal definition, the United States, which is a federal corporation. It's the federal enclaves. It's under military occupation, and under the law of military occupation, they're allowed to lie, loot, plunder, and steal, as well as deceive people, okay? When you finally start to come to that realization of what's really transpiring, then you can realize that the power to create can never be greater than its creator. For example, I am subservient to the one true master of the universe, the creator of the heavens and the earth. I don't get to bark orders at the creator, okay? And because of that, I am subservient. You can't serve two masters, ladies and gentlemen. People have this perpetual conflict of interest because on one hand they yearn and lust for physical possessions in their life. And as a man who seemingly has nothing, I seem to also have everything, which is very interesting. Many people will spend their entire life being in debt. And because they're in debt, they won't be able to take a stand because they're afraid to lose physical possessions, physical assets. So the question becomes, what is your soul worth? What is your dignity worth? All right. Many people, and I was even guilty of this at one point, lust for things of the earth that you can't take with you when you go. So strive to leave a legacy behind, and the good times and the good things will come. We're in a part of times in society where good times breeds weak men and hard times breeds resilient men. And we're on the cusp of going through some really hard times, which is going to force people to learn the truth. It's going to pierce the veil. You're going to be one of two people. You're either going to fall for anything, or you're going to rise like a phoenix, understand the truth, and learn how to protect your assets, protect your friends, protect your family, and protect your community. That's what this class is really geared to and geared for. So with that said, we need to evaluate the Constitution. The The federal Constitution does not necessarily protect your rights. The state is charged with the protection of your rights, and that's where the state constitution and the state Bill of Rights is so important. So often people lean heavily on the federal Constitution, never paying attention that the federal Constitution is separate and single from all 50 state constitutions. Then people say, well, the constitutions are dead. And to that, I will tell you this: the power to create is never greater than its creator. We, the people, do ordain to establish a more perfect union. In all 50 state constitutions, you will find a preamble that says something similar, if not identical, to what I just stated. The constitutions were created to draw a line in the sand of what the government is not to encroach upon, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this class is really geared about. The Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and the Sixth Amendment. Then we're going to go into the 50 state constitutions. We're going to talk about positive law, non-positive law. We're going to talk about why Congress was put in place to create the law, okay, and who it applies to. Because there's really only one law for man, and that law is do no harm. So we're going to talk about oaths, bonds. We're going to talk about filling the seats in the actual offices and what you can do when these tyrants take interest in you. And it's actually quite easy to destroy the facade. Okay, we're going to be talking about what qualifies as a verifiable complaint, what qualifies as a verifiable claim. We're going to talk about verifiable affidavits. We're going to talk about testimony. We're going to talk about remedy. So many people out there on the internet are quick to bitch about the problem and say they have, a proposed solution. But when I evaluate their paperwork, all they're doing is creating more controversy. The trick to this game is to remove the controversy. So, for example, most warrants, if you can even call them that, are actually just capiouses. And when you understand what a capious is and how much power you have, you can shut that capious down in a heartbeat, okay? And then the people who engaged in extortion, racketeering, theft, identity theft can all be held liable for that, okay? But the power is in the knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. The power is not necessarily in your paper. It's in between your ears. And in order to acquire that knowledge, it may benefit you to learn from somebody who's went through the gauntlet. And I've had my fair share of battles. I've got my fair share of scars. This knowledge did not come to me free, okay? I've missed out on birthdays, family photos. I've missed out on my daughter's birthdays. I've missed out on a lot of things, being in and out of jail, in and out of prison, in and out of court. So this knowledge that I'm going to share with you is firsthand knowledge and experience, okay? And that's an important thing. There's a lot of people out there that teach what they've read, and that's all fine and dandy. But until you put those skills to use, they're worthless, okay? We can speculate all day long, but until you put on the armor of God and put yourself in harm's way as a fisher of man and actually complete these objectives of execution, if you will, to stand tall, correct, and with conviction against evildoers or wrongdoers and holding them accountable is what it really boils down to. That's where you will gain this acquired knowledge. Now, recently, we've been able to do away with credit card debts, mortgages. I just submitted something in New Jersey, and I can't wait to see what comes of it. And we're getting a lot of results as of lately, and that's why I'm ready to do another class. The Constitution for the United States of America is a trust document, ladies and gentlemen. It's clearly expressed in the preamble, all right? It is the law of the land. It limits the power of government. It affirms we the people are the masters, okay? And you have to have that mindset, because there's either one of two things occurring here. Either the states and the federal government register people as property and we are slaves, or we are volunteering through a menagerie of language and being dubiously duped into becoming subservient to them. All right. So either we are slaves or we are free. It can't be both. It's either black or it's white. And if we're slaves, we're owed reparations. And if we're free, then by what authority, in other words, a quo warranto, by what authority are you acting under? Is it the color of law? Is it the color of authority? Are you oppressing us under the color of authority? Okay? So we have to think about these things. So that's where the Constitution comes in, because we, the people, created the constitutions to limit government, not to create government to lord over us and limit the people, but to limit commerce, to create laws that pertain to commerce and government, and how quickly we lost sight of that in the last 225 years. All right, and it's time to call it all back. There's something to be learned through history about democracies. Democracies never last, ladies and gentlemen, ever. In all the history of the world, every democracy that has ever existed has always imploded. And when it implodes, it turns into an oligarchy. All right? But we still have a chance here in America. There is no more land to conquer, ladies and gentlemen. All right? As far as I know. And because of that fact, instead of like other countries where people flee, it's time for the good men and women of America to stand up with conviction and say, we're not putting up with your tyrannical shit anymore. Now, violence only begets violence, all right? So I'm not speaking of a violent revolution. I'm talking about ascending of the mind. You see, because the paper and pen are mightier than the sword, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a fact. And I'm living proof of that. I've never been a day to law school. I've prevailed in over 17, 18, 19 cases at this point. I'm starting to lose count of them because they're all blending together. I've got a number of tutorials from people saying, thank you. You helped me win my case. I've watched you on Facebook. I use the stuff that you're teaching, and the judge just says dismissed. Now, that's only part of the battle. Getting something dismissed is wonderful. It frees you of the burden of worrying any longer about being cast into jail or having some benign judgment passed against you or pressed against you that ultimately is either voidable or void from inception because of the denial of due process of law. The old adage, if you don't know your rights, you don't have your rights. I'm living testimony that that is true, correct, accurate, and not misleading in any way, shape, or form. Okay? And that's what this class is geared for, is to help you understand your rights, how to stand upon them, and to ensure that you don't waive your rights. Once you waive your rights, you can kiss them goodbye. Once you miss the opportunity to assert yourself, you can kiss it goodbye. So one of the other things we're going to cover in this class is sham proceedings, because as of recent, I have had a tremendous amount of success, thanks to the Heavenly Father and all the very learned people.
Alright, so this is Diesel We the People News. We're going to go with part 2, y'all. Alright. Bye, y'all.